Well, I think I remember specifically at that meet, the farmers' handles were painted black and they got left in the sun.
Oh,
And they cut. So yeah, you'll notice in my training, I do a lot of deficit deadlifts, a lot of snatch grip deadlifts, things like, ooh, yeah. I don't know. Do you remember when I think right when we got into Strongman?
All right, YouTube. Hey, we're live. We're here with none other than Mr. Strongman of the state of Michigan, Joe Sheffield. And as always, one of the fabulous co-hosts, if not one, but two of the 1D special talks. We got Goon Squad co-host as well as 1D Talks today, Mr. John Rivas. Thanks, John.
Guys? What's up?
Thanks for joining, John.
Yeah.
We were talking before off air about a bunch of funny stuff, and one of them being getting beat up if you grabbed your phone in social media when we were kind of growing up. So I figured we got to turn this on. We got to turn the mic on for the audience out there and talk about what was like in the good old days with lifting.
The garage days, right?
The garage days. I remember the garage, the Strongman garage. That was brutal. So really quick, and then I'm gonna kick it over to social media. So John, you may not know this, but I had this bright idea around your age, actually, John, because you're 33. I'm going to go do Strongman, right? And I haven't seriously trained in I was working out to stay healthy, and whatever, about 7 years, maybe 6 years. So I go, and for whatever reason, I never do this. My dumb ass puts lotion on my hands. No, as the middle of summer, like they were all cut up. I don't know why I still don't do it. Like they're just mangled. Anyway, so I did this one time, and there's just these massive monsters. Like they don't know, it's a Strongman garage. It's literally not a gym. It's literally a garage at a guy's house.
Yep.
No one talks. Everyone grunts. And we were doing the farmer's carry. Huh?
We just met these guys, by the way.
Joe and I just met these guys. And
so wait, was this in Michigan?
Yeah. These guys like national level, strongman. Joe is like just starting to get. They didn't pull his card yet. Like he's allowed to go right now. They're still testing him out, and he's going to bring me more on here. So I was doing the farmer's carry, and I dropped that damn thing so many times. It was the most frustrating day. I don't know if you remember that, Joe. It was at Jared's house, and I
remember.
Yeah,
those carries are hard, man.
Yeah, and they're like, well, that dude ain't giving up, because I was like, I'm not going to be welcome back if I don't pick it up, because I dropped it like 7 times because my hands were so slipped.
Yeah, you did the mistake of telling everybody you put lotion on them.
Yeah, that was not a good idea.
Yeah, like an idiot. They're just like, you sure about this guy? But then I helped him move. I helped move an entire Strongman gym to his new home, and he said hi to me. That was a year and a half later. He said hi, and I was in. I don't know, John, you got any experience like that back in the day with Steve Goggins and the crew?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's I'll say, Joe, I only competed once in Strongman. I did one down here in Richmond, Virginia, and it was like a River City one or something. I trained like 4 weeks for it, and I ended up I don't know if I had a ton of competition. I had a few guys, but I was in USAPL at the time. And I think I had set the national total as like a junior. I set like the open total. No. So I was fairly strong. And the one thing, all the static movements, I was fine. Log press, tire deadlift, all that stuff. The one that killed me was the yoke. Yeah. So the yoke was, I'm used to walking out 800, 900 pounds backwards. But the moment I got to move forwards, at the time, my body was like, no, sir. So that was really hard for me. That was probably the hardest one. I think I smoked everyone on all the static movements, but the yoke just murdered me. But yeah, I mean, it was going back to talking about training partners, man. Well, I could say some stories, but I'll give you the abbreviated version. That one of the places we trained at, they actually brought powerlifting to Virginia in the 60s through AAU. And the gym that we were going to at the time, when it rained, it would come through the ceiling. And so we had squat stands that were welded together, like they had homemade squat stands, and with like car jacks that would jack them up. And so we would do all of our squats, and like I was terrified because I'm like, yo, we're going to slip and 700-800 pounds. We're going to do splits with that. But it was a pretty much STFU. Let's squat. Let's deadlift. We're screaming at each other. There was like 6 of us in the gym every day. We would drive 45 minutes, almost an hour to get there. And it was so cool though, because it reminded me of times I trained like with Goggins, and it was an escape, because nowadays, and Joe, I'm sure you're going to touch on this, nowadays to train like the way you have to train to get to the point where you're at in strongman, in powerlifting, etc., you cannot train with the culture, the gym culture nowadays. It's just different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no, that's a good point. And yeah, what I did to combat that is it's about your training partners at that point. You know, the guys that you train with will kind of the environment and set the tone. So I'm actually making my comeback to strongman later on this year. So I got I got a couple college football players to train with me.
Yeah,
and the deal is, okay, I'll tell you guys what to do, but you never let me quit, and you can't let me be an old man, and you can't let me make any excuses. Because I'm going to be 40 this summer, so I'm going to the Masters division, but I'm trying not to. Yeah, and then to your point, John, one common issue in strongman is that everybody, when they start out, one question they always have: how do I get better at the yoke? Well, sadly, the only answer to that is more yoke. There's nothing that'll help it besides that. So that's when
I had like 3-4 weeks, and that's why I was just like, whatever. 500 feels like a million pounds.
Yeah, that's a big one. For any athlete, no matter how athletic you are, the yoke is going to keep fits for a while. That's just all there is.
Yeah, it just
can't fake that.
Yeah, but do 1,000 more sets, and it'll start getting easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a look here at the yoke. Let's see the yoke, right? Let's go share screen. A little fun with the yoke here. So what are we looking at here, Joe?
There we go.
That one. Yeah, that's
what. Whoop. I'll come back to that.
Yeah, that was a real clip, but yeah. So those are my training partners.
Yeah, they look pretty young. Joe, how old are you?
I'm good. I'm 39 right now. I'm gonna be 40 this summer in August. So both those.
You got a couple months, man. You got a couple months of those 30s left. So.
Well, that's why I did it. Both those guys are half my age.
Yep.
Ton of energy. So yeah, it's been working out really good. And then Joe Miller is going to come down and mix it up with us a few times this summer too, I think.
Dude, isn't it crazy when you find, a hobby or a passion that the years go by, and then you think about, well, I remember doing this, I remember doing that, and then you take a second and you think about it, and you're like, holy crap, that was 7 years ago. That was 4 years ago. That was 13 years ago. And it feels, because you have so much passion for it, it feels like yesterday.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. This was a 750 yoke, Joe. How long ago was this?
That was actually 2018. So that was my last contest I did in strongman. So I competed for 10 years straight, and then 2018 was my last show, and I was going to convert over to Highland Games full time. But that year kind of got away from me, and then business wise, I started up a athletic training facility, at a consulting job to do that year. Then COVID hit, and then I kind of got away from competing. And so I'm just, like I said, I'm forcing myself to get back into it. That's why I got those training partners I did, and I'm getting back into it hardcore this year. But yeah, it has been a little rough.
What are your goals? I know that obviously the last competition was 5-6 years ago. Do you have any specific, whether it's like a static number, like a 700 deadlift, or you want to hit a yoke in a certain amount of time or a certain amount of weight? Is there any goals that you have, or no?
Yeah, that's a good question. But in strongman, the number one thing is winning a contest. So I don't. Yeah, like with the powerlifting, you don't you really focused on the numbers. In strongman, it's more about the points and kind of winning the day. So you can play the point smart and win a contest that way, or you can play them bad and lose. So for me, the biggest thing I want to do is get back to my strength numbers that I was at, at the peak of my computer, which is tough to do when you're close to 40, but I'm pushing.
Yeah, but you can do it.
Yeah, and that's what I want to do. Is at 40, that's Masters division in strongman. So really want to get back on the national level in the Masters division. And if I feel great, then I'll go open, right?
Cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. And, just gets you excited about training again, right? Or training on a goal.
Yeah, I know, Joe, you're working on I want to get into program design for Strongman in a minute, but because I know you're working on an ebook for that, and you have some training programs that you do for Strongman athletes as well as other athletes. We'll get into that. But I'm curious, John, did you do the stones, John?
I did not. I did the ones I did was log press, yoke, farmers, deadlift, and I think I didn't do a chain pull or anything. The stones scared me, man. I will say, because I didn't take enough time. I did it in between leaving USAPL IPF and then going into USPA untested, right? So I had a few months where I was like playing around with stuff, and so I didn't spend a lot of time on it. But I knew that if your form is not correct, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but in strongman competitions, you don't know, like, the exercises are different every time, and they pick different heights, different weights, different lengths to do things. And the one thing was, I'm 5'10" and a half, so I guess 5'11", I don't know. But what I knew was we had the stone set, the stone block set, and I would walk up to him and I'm like, man, this thing is like head level. There's no way I'm going to be able to put it. I mean, maybe, but I wasn't tall enough to really be super successful at it. So I think that was probably one of the most intimidating ones, was the stones. And I know guys can, if done improperly and try to use their biceps, they will tear.
Yep.
Yeah, number one, bicep tears are the number one injury in strongman. So stones, tire flips, and then an axle clean with an over-under grip, those are all very high-risk activities. I've got, there's one doctor I know of that's done 7 of my friends' biceps. So,
oh my God, man.
Luckily, luckily I've never done one. And that, to the stones portion, and then, where Joe Miller and I used to train at was a place called the Motor City Madhouse by Spybrook, who's a pro strongman we used to train with. And one thing that he really believed in was we used to load our stones to a 57-inch platform. Okay. So normal standard is 54 or lower, because that's actually the height of a whiskey barrel. So that's why you put a stone on it. So
that makes sense.
Aspect of it too. And so we would always train at the 57 because that made you get the extra extension that you're talking about. You actually train more. Because Jared, the guy that ran our strongman crew, he lost a contest once where he got the stone caught on the edge and couldn't quite get it over. And he said, well, that's never happening again. So then so then if you look, some of my old videos, you'll see where I'll always pop it to that height and kind of throw the stone and drop it on the platform.
Yeah.
Too high than not high enough.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. Trust me, doing a strongman, because I did my first strongman contest without training or knowing any of the events, but you really don't get to show your strength there until you learn the technique.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, the one thing that comes out of strongman is the badass.
Yeah, look at that, man.
Look at that. So Amber has a picture of me where I got my ass whooped in this meet, but the stones I did pretty good. No one will know because I just said it, so they will know. But my hands, I tore them all wide open, right? Blood everywhere. Went to the EMT. You remember this? He's always laughing.
I'm like on him and stuff.
Oh, everything. So I'm like, I'm not done. I'm like, so I went to the ambulance, whatever. They taped me all up. Like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, they put the tape on, then I'll put the tacky on the outside. Like, let's do this. So there's this awesome picture she has where I'm setting a stone up and it's like blood and dirt and tacky and, gravel all on me. And it's like, like the most manly image. But no one has to know that I got smoked in the other, events, it's a cool picture, man. It was worth getting my ass kicked.
Yeah. Well, I think I remember specifically at that meet, the farmer's handles were painted black and they got left in the sun.
Oh,
and they cut through your hands like butter.
Like butter. Yeah. Yes. So my first meet, to your point, John, I think I might have had 8 weeks or something, but I trained, it was my first one, and we had the weights, right? Here's the implements, here's the weights. So I got right up to the weight, right? Like, okay, I'm there. I'm going to be okay. This mountain of a man walks up. Everybody, come here. We all walk in the center. I'm like, all right, like this is where we check in. My first time, he goes, here's the deal. And Joe knows where I'm going with this. He's like, as a heavyweight, light heavies, you're doing middleweight, you're doing light heavies weight. light heavies doing heavyweights are doing supers, which means I had to do the next weight up. He's like, if you got a problem with it, he said it like changed his tone to be nice. He goes, if you got a problem with it, he's like, well, then you're a pussy. And I'm like, oh, dude. I'm like, I just got ready to lift the weights like there. So in my head, I'm like, well, it looks like I do have a problem with this, but whatever, man.
Not at a show.
I'm like, dude. So yeah, I got smoked. But other guys had the same thing, so I can't really complain. But I forgot all about these horrific stories. But anyways, memory.
Yeah, because I'll never forget the paramedic. What was he pouring alcohol into your hand? And then you made a face. And he's like, what? This hurts you? Like, he goes, you're a big guy. And you go, I still have nerve endings, man.
That's so funny.
Oh, good times, man. Good times.
So is Joe doing programming now? Does Joe have a program you were talking about?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on an ebook right now,
Cool.
kind of based on what Joe Miller and I learned back in the day. Is I'm doing an ebook called Old School Strongman Training, because basically I look around today and, all this stuff that we learned, that was pre-social media. Like that was really the garage days. I mean, that was firsthand knowledge passed from person to person that kind of came down to us. And then I look around today and I see the way that some guys are training, and those concepts just aren't even out there. So, that's I love strongman, and I want to, continue it and give it help as many people do the sport that I love that I can. But I feel like a lot of people aren't training right. And as you know, it's a very hard and dangerous sport to train. And that's why I think, a lot of people get into powerlifting, because there's just kind of a lower bar to get into it. It's just easier. There's barbells and, bench squat and deadlift.
Yeah, you can do it at a normal gym.
Yeah, like anybody can get into that kind of right away. But you need a lot of special equipment, and you need a lot of, special techniques, as kind of like you're talking about, John, to do this. And that's, even like my partners now that I'm training with, I think they even said, they're like, man, there's just a lot to learn. There's so many different events. There's, put your hands here, change your grip there for this and that. And, there's just a lot of learn. So it takes a lot of time to put into. So anything I can do to kind of help speed people up in that process, that's kind of what I'm passionate about.
That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, and he's in the old guy club. So John, you're on the cusp of it, but he's in the club as me and Justin going, I don't know what we're doing with social media. So we've been talking about creating some content together, and Joe's using our products and stuff, but and some of his athletes will, but I'm gonna help him kind of get some of his content out there, because he's got a ton between the ears. It's just a matter of getting it out there. So
yeah, you get to a certain age, and like because we're not old, and you get to a certain age, and it's like, okay, well, I'm not 21, right? But I'm not in my 50s. And so it's like that limbo where you know how to use the apps, you know how to do all the social media, but what's being posted and stuff is so out there. You're like, why would people like to watch that? But weird things click with, every year some new app or, new fad is out, and we have to find ways to be able to promote the passion and, the fact that, Joe is putting out an ebook that's going to be really beneficial to people. People might not see it if it's not got some dorky with it or something, so it's interesting to how we have to.
I think you should do this picture. Maybe people can comment in the comment section if they like this. They think this is a badass enough picture. It kind of reminds me of Josh Bryant's images, right? Like,
oh yeah,
just beat up, old dirty, just old dirty weight room. Just, throw that bad boy on the cover of it, Joe. There you go. I'm your marketing guy. I just did it for you.
Yeah, it was. I think I was actually sponsored by a beard oil company at the time. So.
Oh yeah. Dude, how tall are you?
That was a fashion show right there. Picture.
How tall are you?
I'm 6 feet tall. On the dot.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not a gigantic guy, and that's even when I got into strongman. A lot of people even said to me, like, "Aren't you too small for that?"
Like I give you credit for that, because me being almost 5'11", like I was like, yo, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this. But I remember, and you guys know this too, watching Mariusz Pudzianowski. What was he, 6'2", maybe?
Yeah, I think 6'1".
6'1", smoking everybody, moving the fastest, body like a bodybuilder. Like, dude, that guy motivated so many people to get into so many different sports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he motivated me. I mean, just the fact that you could be that strong and actually look good,
and not have to be 7 feet tall.
Right.
Yeah.
And, for me, I never thought there was much of a point of lifting weights if I had to look terrible by doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Joe, I don't have the
Yeah.
pictures with you, but just a little context for the viewers out there too. Joe was a client of Justin's back in the day, and Joe did how many bodybuilding shows you do, Joe?
yeah, I did 3 bodybuilding shows after I played high school football, then college football, and then I did bodybuilding for 3 years after that. And then after my last show, 1 month after, that's when you and I, Joe, got into Strongman.
Okay, yeah. No, I know you sent me some images. I'll try to see if I can't email these and get them up on the screen later in the episode while we're recording here. But I'll make a note of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna pull this other one up here just really quick while we're on the topic.
Mm.
I think it's one of the cool things I like. I told Joe, I said, dude, your Instagram's private. Like, get it off, get it. You gotta let people see this stuff. So he changed.
That's that old school. That's that old school.
That's the old school.
Yeah.
But look at this. Is pretty cool, right?
Okay, so this is stone loading. Yeah. Do you
So,
remember the weights of these stones, Joe, or no?
This was a Michigan State Championship, so I think it was 280, 300, 320, and the last one was 380. I don't think I got that. But yeah, if you'll notice, you look at the extension, you want to have a couple inches of clearance of there between. Yeah, I think that's all. I think that video is a little short.
No, I paused it. I was gonna say, like, the positioning, right? It's like a deep squat, and then you got to dig your hands under and get the
And that's where people tear the biceps. That's where.
Yep. If you yank on the stone in that position, kind of like same way with a deadlift, if you have one up, that's when you tear it. So what you need to do is give a slow, controlled pull off the ground, because those stones, even the heaviest stone is not nearly as heavy as your deadlift. So you don't have to, it's just hard to grip, and if your tacky's working fine, you should be okay. So that's another big form point that, guys get too excited or they're trying to go too fast. Yep. They yank the stone, they pull a bicep off.
And I remember, because that tape is wrapped around, there's tacky on his arms there, and the tape to help it stick, because you're not lifting it with your fingers. Like you're from your elbow to your fingertips is almost like one big hand, right? You're applying a lot of pressure, if I remember correctly, and leveraging it up, which is really, really, way different than a barbell. And then you kind of sit, right? You got to sit with it and like kind of roll it, and then kind of drive like a front squat, a little hip extension, calf raise, etc. Then throw it.
It's almost like your arms are placeholders where they're just locked in, right? There's tension, but they're not, they're just locked in. And then what's that posterior chain through like hamstrings, glutes, like lower back, that posterior chain, like is taking a ton right there.
Mm-hmm. Oh. So yeah, you'll notice in my training, I do a lot of deficit deadlifts, a lot of snatch grip deadlifts, things like that, because, one saying in Strongman is if you don't go to those positions, you won't be strong there. And you see, the extreme kind of flexion that you have to do to get around that stone. Yeah, you have to build up the strength in that area.
Yeah, cool. For sure. That's awesome.
Well, Joe, you also work with, I know we'll come back to Strongman a little bit, but I know you also work with, talk about your degrees and kind of your passion there. Like, was it lifelong strength or something? What was that you were telling me about a little bit?
So I have a master's degree in exercise science, and kind of the main thing that I studied was athletic development across. Okay, so my day job is that I work at a place called the Rolston Hockey Academy, which is an elite school for hockey players. So basically, we have it's at an ice rink. We have an on-ice instructor. The kids do that for an hour every day. Then they come lift with me for an hour every day. Then they go do their schoolwork, and we have teachers and stuff like that. And then along with that, I'm also the head strength coach for Little Caesars travel hockey. So AAA hockey, if you guys know anything about it, is, where the kids travel all over the country, play the best teams. So yeah, that's what I do. So I work with kids all the way from, 10 years old all the way up to, you see my football guys. We're, 21 or older. So yeah, so I deal with that. And kind of the one big thing I'm passionate about is, helping parents and young athletes kind of figure out what to do. Right. Because, we were all there at one point. I mean, I don't know, Joe Miller is kind of the same boat as me. I mean, I just wanted to be a pro football player when I was a kid,
Yeah.
But you only have so much talent and so much genetics, and it takes a lot of training to get there. And so anytime I can help a kid with that process, is really what I'm passionate about. So every day I get to help kids kind of live out their dreams and get to the next level. So I'm really lucky.
That's awesome, Joe. It's all, dude, giving back is so much more rewarding than actually doing it. It is. Well, if you guys, anyone out there listening, giving back in your chosen sport or endeavor, or just some way to the community, or kids or people who don't have the opportunities or don't have as much as you, man, there's nothing like it, being able to give back and support.
Yeah, I would highly recommend that. Like, I know, I started out actually, big thing for me, I was a regular personal trainer, but I started with my nephews, working with their sports teams and stuff. It really got me into this. And I would just highly recommend to anybody out there, old lifters like us, is that if you can help coach a team or coach kids, try to take some time out of your schedule to do that. I know it's really hard, but man, it just teaching kids how to do some push-ups and walking lunges.
Yeah. No, and I know you were talking about like one of your passions for wanting to try to figure out this whole world of social media and content was you've seen so much crappy content. It affected your family, right? Some of your nephews were telling you stuff, and you're like, "Wait, what did you just say?" So, you want to talk a little about that?
Yeah, I mean, my own nephews. Yeah, I don't have any kids, but I do have a bunch of nephews, and my 14-year-old nephew, kept telling me he was having so much trouble gaining weight. He's just starting to lift, stuff like that. And then I found out later he's watching The Liver King, and he hasn't eaten a carb in an entire year.
Oh my God.
And then then I sit here. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to make a little bit more presence on social media. My own nephew is listening to The Liver King over me. There's a problem here.
Well, think about it this way, right? And I know that we have to think about it this way, and that's helped us. But for anyone out there that does have really good information, or you feel like you have something worthwhile that's legit that can help people out, think about it this way. When you're in college or you're younger, high school and stuff, and you see a guy with a nice looking gal, and you're like, how did that guy get that girl? Mm-hmm. Well, he was the only one that went up and asked her. So when you're willing to put your stuff, if you're not even willing to put your stuff out there, don't be mad if people start following, people they shouldn't follow. So, just put it out there.
No, I definitely learned that lesson. Yeah. So, I think that goes for all of us. It's just, things that we think are obvious are not that obvious.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think just like you said, that detailed approach to like walk people from where they are to where they want to be is so important. I think it's one of the biggest reasons why we have the podcast and the content we create at First Detachment is because we know our products are superior in the marketplace, and everyone can say that, but you can read the backs of our labels, read the ingredients, and you can make your own determination, right? The studies, we even post research that's not from us, people to look at that. What's the rub then? What's the obstacle? It's education. Because if you got some cool person doing a backflip off of a, bungee thing or whatever, and he's going, hey, I drink this, it gives me energy. And it's like, well, yeah, but there's 15% of actually good ingredients in that versus what we, whatever the case is, right? Like, I'm not trying to knock any companies, whatever, but it is definitely one of the things in today's world is just like, if you have something good, eventually you'll get there. Eventually you'll hit your tipping point. You're going to get customers because referrals and stuff. I mean, I know Justin talks about like the fact that he's been very proud. He's been a coach, a loaded coach with like tons of clients for 20 years now, and he's never done any marketing himself about his coaching. So it was all referrals and stuff. But anyways, I just thought that was kind of, interesting and something Joe and I like talked about, and the fact that my deadlift started to suck. So I went and saw Joe for some making me do snatch grip deadlifts and getting uncomfortable in some of those positioning and all that fun stuff. But
usually the answer is the thing that you don't want to do is what you need to do, right? Whatever you're the worst at, that's probably where you need to put the work.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's one thing I always say is like the death of every lifter or every lifter's career is when you only do the things that you want to do,
Right.
I mean, it's fun to do an 18-inch deadlift and throw a bunch of plates on there, but you know, how much good is that really going to do you for your training? You know, sometimes that's not the thing, you know.
Or even in the physique world, because when I came over to the physique world, it was training was completely different, you know. But what I notice is some people stick to certain. I'll say this: I had to completely switch my training, completely. So I had no ego connected with any lifts at all. But what I noticed was in the physique world, similar to what you're talking about, people will stick to their biggest, strongest body parts naturally. So if they've got a strong back and strong glutes or something, you know, they're doing certain, you know, deadlift movements, or if they've got strong biceps, they're always, you know, hitting bicep curls or whatever. Like it's you have to, the guys who do really, guys and gals who do really well are the ones who step outside that and train the stuff that's hard.
Yeah. I think that's a Dave Tate quote: is you get better by doing what you suck at, you know?
Yeah, I love it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, I thought I'd share this other one more for maybe only, I don't want to say one more, but one more for now, I guess. So this looks like a good little, for our bodybuilders in prep right now. Maybe you can do this cardio instead of the 2% incline at 3.5 miles per hour. Looks like fun.
What about the steps on that? Do you have to take small, choppy steps? How does that work?
Well, it limits you because it's just so heavy, and then you know you might be kicking those the farmers handles. But yeah, kind of your point, Joe. Like there is, you know, farmers walks, sled drags, sled pushes, even yoke to some extent. Those can be used as cardio. I mean, those are tire flips and truck pulls produce more lactic acid than any other exercises that, you know, when you take blood values. So they can definitely be used, but once again, you know, it's kind of a sparingly thing. You know, I always use the MMA kind of comparison. You know, in mixed martial arts, they take a little bit from a bunch of different martial arts and put it together and into one thing that works.
Right.
All kind of seek to do with our training.
Yeah, and just for people, I know John mentioned he did the log press, so here's just another example of what that actually is, so people can kind of get.
I found the photo, Joe. I'm going to send it to you right now.
All right, cool. What is this, 325 log press, Joe?
Yeah, so that's I'm working out of the rack there. So definitely, you know, when you're working on strongman events, sometimes it does pay off to break them out because doing the clean is very exhausting. So that can throw you off before your presses. So there are times when you kind of break those events up a little bit, you know, and then there's other times when you really want to try to mimic the contest as much as possible. Like if you remember in our Motor City Madhouse days, Joe, we would do pretty much a full contest except 3 or 4 sets of each event, you know, so we do 4 or 5, sometimes 6 events in a day, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of people doing that anymore. And that's one thing that I'm talking about in my ebook is, you know, just farmers walks and deadlifts and then going home is not a strongman workout if you want to compete and actually win contests.
Right.
You know, you have to do it, but it takes time to build up to it, you know.
While we're playing around with loading up photos and stuff, the one your bodybuilding one I couldn't get to load. So
you want me to if I posted that on my Instagram, would you be able to pull it up real quick?
Yeah, that'd be easier for me.
Joe, I think I just sent you one of me doing a log press. See if in the meantime you can pull that one up. Send to your email.
All right, let's try it out. While we're pulling that up, Joe, what are some things you see with hockey players? Is there any like translate like thing you're seeing? Here, I'll pull this up.
Well, yeah, I mean that kind of brings me to just youth sports in general. The biggest problem in youth sports is over specialization. You know, in a hockey, that's a big one. I don't think that's me. Oh, is that John?
Yeah, that was me. That was me. That was the one. Oh my God, dude, that might have been 20.
That's John before he had a girlfriend, right, John? Because now she keeps you looking a lot prettier than that.
Yeah, I was like 23 there or something. But yeah, continue, Joe.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question?
I don't remember. Oh, hockey.
Talking about
hockey
sports.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, youth sports. That's actually one of my big soapboxes. So what the problem with youth sports in America just in general is like the influences we get would be like Tiger Woods or Venus and Serena Williams, where their parents kind of pigeonholed them into one sport at 2 years old, you know, and that was the only thing they ever did, you know, and that's just too common in this country. And so basically with my studies and lifetime athletic development, the people that did the most research on that was actually the Soviet Union. And so as a communist country, they would run through schools and test kids in different things and then say, okay, you're going to be a weightlifter, you're going to be a gymnast, you're going to be a that. And they would put you in a special school where that's all you did. And they could do it both ways. They could specialize you early, or they would specialize you around 16 to 18. Okay. And what they always found is the kids that did general stuff and specialized later had better careers, less injuries, and just more success in general. So that's the lesson that, I'd like to talk about for, if you have young kids, don't pigeonhole them into one sport early. Let them do, we had it right in the 50s, where you'd play 3 sports a year at your school, and then you spend the summer swimming and climbing trees and riding your bike and stuff like that. Now we have kids doing the same sport 11 months out of the year. Okay, so that's resulting in, number one, just overuse injuries because you're doing the same movements all the time and you're not doing other ones. So there's no kind of physical balance that's developed there. And that's, a lot of it is because of the finances. Like you get into these travel sports and they just force you, if you want to be part of it, to, participate 11 months a year.
Right.
As a parent or an educator, or, if you have young people in your family, what I would highly suggest is that they at least diversify to 2 sports until later on, 15, 16, 17, then they can specialize. But that's the biggest issue. So what I have to do most of the time is, okay, what are the overuse injuries that are common in hockey? And then I have to design programs to counteract that so these kids don't get injured. And then once I fix that, then I can look at performance development on top of it. But in hockey, it's a really tough world because hockey season goes 9 months. So you have to really kind of intersperse those workouts, carefully during the year. So yeah, hockey strength coaching is not quite as straightforward as football, where you got 3 months of the season and then 9 months of the off season. The hockey is a much more kind of touch and go type of thing.
Well, you see, that's a good topic because that's been a huge issue with basketball. And people always talk about in the NBA, the load, right? Pretty much how much time can superstars take off during the season? Load, they call it load management. And they'll take off a game or a couple games and this and that. But towards the end of the season, if they already made the playoffs, they won't play at all. And people are getting mad because they're dropping all this money for tickets. They're not seeing the superstars, and the superstars aren't hurt. But the injuries are piling up. We have better nutrition knowledge. We have better strength training. We have all this stuff. And players, NBA players are getting hurt more and more. Well, they looked back and they saw, why are these people getting hurt? Well, the AAU program has changed. It used to be about team. They used to play a certain months a year. And now the AAU program has become travel all year round. And it's turned into, they forget about the team. Mostly because of social media. Everyone's a highlight tape. And so they forget about the team. And now everyone's trying to do highlight reels, dunk at 13 years old and whatever. And, so all these things are putting the wear and tear on their bodies. They've had 10 years of wear and tear on their bodies by the time they get to college, right? So let's say they do a year or 2 in college. By the time they get to the league, you see guys like Zion Williamson, who it was supposed to be the next LeBron James, has played maybe 1 year total out of the last 3 or 4. And forgive me if I'm off by that, but it hasn't been a lot. It's been like half a season here, whatever. But just like you're talking about, it's almost like that's why other players are coming in from overseas, these Serbians and everyone else, and they're dominating us because they're focused on when they're kids doing what you're talking about, but focused on the proper aspects of the sport and stuff like that, and not doing, the wrong. It seems like our country is just focused on the wrong things with social media.
All the showboating type stuff kind of gets promoted. Like we're talking about with Liver King and things like that. And then, the fundamentals kind of get ignored. And these parents pour tons of money into this stuff, but a lot of times it's in the wrong direction. They always think that more is better. Okay, let's get another private lesson, or let's get join another team, or get this different coach. And that's not the answer. The answer is generalized physical development. That's what everybody needs.
Well,
guys, if we sound negative, we're not being negative. We promise. It's just we're just venting a little bit. Sorry.
I'm passionate about this subject. So,
well, and another great one, especially for all of our customers in Ohio are going to love this. We might no longer be welcome back to Elite FTS after I say this, but actually Dave was on the border of Michigan, Ohio. So, Jim Harbaugh. So when he did his very first ever quarterback camp at the University of Michigan, he did not bring footballs, and social media blew up. Like, what the heck is this quack doing? He had him doing baseball drills and more athletic drills. Like a heavy part of it was baseball. You can look it up. But it was this interesting. He was trying to see their mechanics, how they move, how adaptable they are, space recognition, reaction timing. He was looking at those like intangibles. He didn't really care. Like, yeah, dude, you've been throwing a football year round for the last 15, 16, 10 years of your life, whatever, fill in the blank. And, he's like, I'm looking for athletes. Now, many would argue it took him a little while to find those athletes, but now he's got them. So,
hey, they're top 4 this past year, right?
Yeah. 2 years in a row, but who's counting, right? Not this guy. But so anyways, thought that was interesting. But speaking of showing off, Joe, let's show this off too really quick here. So how old were you in these pictures?
Oh, well, these are my bodybuilding. Okay, yeah. So I think
that hair, man.
Yeah, I used to have hair, so that is one thing.
Don't let the lady see these, all right?
Yeah, I shaved it by choice. No. Yeah. So yeah, I did 3 bodybuilding shows. So I think this is actually from my last one. I think it was the NPC championships. My best finish ever is, if you click through those, I think I got second at the Michigan Novice Championships was my highlight in bodybuilding. Oh, that was a strongman picture. That was the first time I qualified for nationals. So that was probably 26 in that picture. So that's right when my bodybuilding career ended.
Was that when was I there when?
Yeah, that was
King of the Mountain in Mount Pleasant. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you were there. But I qualified for nationals and you didn't.
I barely freaking made it home.
Okay, that's for my first show right there. So nice. That was the first time. I did a Justin Harris diet, and that was the first time I ever really saw my abs. So that was pretty exciting.
Cool.
Yeah,
I remember that too, because like I remember like back at the place we worked, like people didn't understand like it's not weird to help someone backstage, right? Because like I found out you're by yourself, and they're like, "Wait a minute, did you like put stuff on him?" And I'm like, "How do I want to answer this?"
Yeah,
because it's like, well, if you don't and his color's off, like it's gonna look horrible. So you kind of want to help your boy out, I'm like, but anyways, yeah, exactly. But yeah, I remember that, man. I was crammed back there at the Redford Theater in Michigan.
Oh, there was no room back there. Yeah, I think I accidentally hit somebody in the head with a dumbbell doing laterals. It was pretty bad.
But yeah, and this is it was the same show as one of your first shows.
Yeah, I think that might have been my last one right there. Yeah, so. I think I was about 210 pounds, maybe somewhere between 206, like I said. But yeah, I think 1 month after that show is when I think we met Steve Barkley and we got involved in a first strongman contest. And once I did that, I kind of fell in love with it, and bodybuilding was kind of in the past. I really hated the dieting too. I really didn't like it.
It's hard, man. You're telling me.
Yeah, it was that was a trip. But like physically, that I think that the development I got from bodybuilding actually did help me carry over into strongman.
For sure.
Yeah, it was like 1 month. I think my first contest I got 18 out of 22 or something like that. And then that second picture you saw after Joe and I went and trained for 6 weeks at Motor City, then I qualified for nationals at my second show by getting 3rd place. That was the old King of the Mountain show.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that was the beginning.
Good stuff, man.
No, that's actually funny. Now that I think about it, before I got into powerlifting full time up in college, I was doing a lot more volume, more bodybuilding stuff, curls, shoulder day, back day, leg day. But then I found out when I started focusing just compound movements and really training for strength, I was like, man, this feels like pretty easy. This is fun. And then the lifts just skyrocketed. So it's like you spend so much time training these like secondary muscles for strength training, but we don't realize it. So then when we go into just, okay, I need to train deadlift, I need to train squat, I need to train this, I need to train that, some overhead pressing, it almost feels easier, and then you just like, I think that's what you're talking about, where your lifts, you had already trained everything else.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really, like I said, plus I had a background in football training and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So power cleans. And, that is one we're talking about advice for people that want to get in strongman. The best thing you can do before you start strongman is actually to learn Olympic lifting. Okay, because that's the biggest problem guys have is learning how to push press and do all the overhead press and kind of the explosive cleaning stuff. So a lot of people always think that powerlifting is the best avenue in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually you got to learn how to move your body explosively. That's the biggest thing that you don't get in bodybuilding that you need in either Olympic lifting or strongman, things like that. But like you said, like one thing, I never tore a bicep, I never had a shoulder injury. I've never had an upper back injury, things like that. So I credit the bodybuilding training for kind of building up that toughness to help kind of push me through.
For sure, man.
Some big strong guys, they don't have any biceps,
Right.
Yeah.
Because, the guys will even say, I don't need to do that. That's, beauty muscle or glory stuff or whatever. But listen, man, I'm not tearing bicep for anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Joe, talk to us about this, the circus dumbbell too. I know it's another popular one. I just found this one.
Ooh, yeah. I don't know. Dude, do you remember when I think right when we got into strongman was somehow when this got popular?
Yeah.
This is another one. If you don't have any background in Olympic lifting, you're not going to be able to push and catch. And, because a lot of times, for my weight class, I might have to do a 200-pound circus dumbbell. Okay. Right. So it's more about balance and technique than it is about raw strength. I mean, you can do all the seated overhead presses you want in the gym. I don't care who you are. You're not doing 200 pounds. Right. So yeah. And that's just the thing about strongman is it takes a lot of technical training, and if you don't want to do, circus dumbbell presses over and over again until you get it right, it might not be the thing for you.
Yeah. I remember, what helped me a lot was like the uncomfortableness in shot put, because you have it kind of like you're like this and you're trying to, so just having that implement there. And then I think the axle press, I was naturally kind of not as good as some others in like the seated military, but for whatever reason, like the axle, that awkwardness, like just from doing this so much and like shot put, I had to press from here, was just like my body was like counterintuitive, like, oh, we're in an awkward spot now, all of a sudden we're magically stronger. Like doesn't make any damn sense. But yeah, I think I tend to do decent in those. I mean, decent relative, right? Like to my other lifts, but yeah. So what else you got? What else you got in the works, Joe?
Well, number one, I'm training. I'll be posting my training this summer, with my 2 football players all summer. So if anybody's interested in that, you can check out my social media, Joe Sheffield Strongman. You'll see me getting tortured on a weekly basis by those dudes. But yeah, I'd really like to be ready to compete by the fall. There's actually a couple cool shows over the summer. There's actually one in on the beach in Michigan this year where they're doing the whole strongman show in the sand. That's pretty fun.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be ready for that one, but I definitely would like to be ready by the fall in September. There's Great Lakes Strongest Man, which is now, there is no Michigan Strongest Man show anymore, which was my claim to fame, is that I won that 3 times. But that show's kind of defunct now, I guess. And so Great Lakes Strongest Man is the biggest show in Michigan. So that's really where I want to make my comeback, and give me a good litmus test of where I need to be to compete at this level again,
Well, I would like to give a shout out to where you train at, which is Rochester Performance Gym, because John, you may or may not know this, but John's coming out. We got our biggest like first detachment kind of video and photo shoot. We're creating a bunch of content, and Steve, the owner there at Rochester Performance Gym, Joe made an introduction there, great guy, and he's going to help open up his doors to us in the middle of the day, just kind of do what we need to do and get to see Mr. Rivas tearing it up a little bit with some 1D apparel on. I know we're excited for that.
Yeah, man.
And Joe Seaman, who hopefully at that point we can say won the Toronto Pro, so he'll be there. And
New York Pro.
No, I'm sorry, New York Pro. Yeah,
get it together, Joe.
Yeah, Toronto's in June, right? Is it June?
Yeah, I think Toronto's a few weeks after, but
I went to the Toronto Pro last year or 2 years ago. I know Joe's done that one a few times. My bad. Yeah, New York Pro. And then Selby will be there, a couple other athletes. So
I won't be doing no Joe Sheffield weight, but I had a few curls.
Yeah, okay. But
you still got some of that powerlifting strength deep down in your core.
I don't know, maybe
some of that, definitely some of the leg movements we've seen out there. So
yeah,
you still got that.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Rochester Performance Gym, whether you're doing bodybuilding, powerlifting, or strongman, it's a great place. If you're anywhere in Oakland County, it's a great gym to go to, because there's just not a ton of gyms that have the type of equipment I need to do strongman. It's still, even to this day, as popular as it is, you gotta drive. Like we used to drive an hour to Jared's house,
right?
Back in the day, and that didn't bother me at all, because we've had to drive farther than that. So
right, yeah.
Dude, when you guys think about it, like I think back to when I was more of a single guy, and we would drive like you said, like to an hour to train. So we drove an hour, and then it would be your boys, and we would get ready to lift. We would train, and by the time you're done, it's at least 2 hours. At least it wasn't like a bodybuilding hour workout, and then you got to drive an hour back. So it's like a 4 or 5 hour thing. Like, oh my god, dude! If I had like a family or stuff, they would just assume that I left them.
I am so blessed because of the fact that I am a pain in the ass when I don't train, and B, my wife is an angel. So she's like, going to train, honey? If it's 9 o'clock at night, if we're on vacation, she's like, oh, you going to train? Because she just like, it's like, like imagine if, and I'm not making light of someone who has any kind of issues out there that are on medication for it, but it's almost like, go take your mental health medication, like go train. Because if not, whatever. So I'm really fortunate to where it's like, I don't know how I pulled that off, but I screw up everything else, but I pulled that off because she's like, no, you need to go train. We'll see ya.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go be an idiot with Joe. And then she's like, so you were talking about training with a younger kid, college kids. Well, I helped out at Clarkston High School in the weight room a little bit. And they got a really good strength coach there. Great guy. Actually, I'd like to introduce him to both of you. He's kind of a fan of a lot of our content and Lead FTS. I say a fan, but he knows his stuff. Like a really good dude. Anyways, one of the kids just graduated, and she's like, are you going to train with that kid again? And it's just like, I mean, this kid's 17, strong as can be, man, like just tearing it up. And I'm like blown out. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do, 5 sets of abs. I want to do a couple more leg curls. I was going to do good mornings. And then I'm going to do sprints. I'm like, what? Oh, my kids, the kids. Yeah. So, oh man, no, I finished with them, but I'm like, gosh, dang it, man. I'm like, I remember being like this, like it's a whole nother level. And, but it's good, man. She got mad at me because I cramped up a couple times. I came home. I'm like, it's man law. Like they asked me how many reps are you gonna do? And what I was thinking, I shouldn't have said out loud, but I did. I said 20. It was on a loaded leg press. And I'm like, now that I said it, I have to do it, right? It's man law, right, John?
Yeah, but the trick is you just say, how many you guys gonna do? It's like, if it's like scary, or if the weight's like really, or something that you like, all right, man, this is gonna be hard, just be like, I'm gonna go to failure. So that way, you can feel, because at the end of the day, you do have to be safe with certain things. So even if afterwards the weight looks like, oh man, you could have done 5 more. Well, who knows if that 6th one, if you know your body well enough, you might need to rack it, save it for another day. Guys like back in the day, I'm sure you guys remember, super heavyweights Brian Siders, who was all-time world record holder in powerlifting as a super heavyweight, won IPF Worlds a million times. He used to bench press. Guys, look it up, Brian Siders. This was how long his bench press was. He'd touch, it'd be like this. That was it. It was here. And that was whether it was 500, 600, 700, 800 pounds. It was so fast. But he would either get it or he wouldn't. So people would be like, oh, he had another 100 pounds. But the way that he trained and his explosiveness and fast twitch muscle fiber, he knew when it wouldn't go. So sometimes it's important, not to go too crazy. And,
Yeah. Well, I will say we were training at the shop gym. Joe, I'm telling Joe the story because John was there. And I was like, John was going last. And I'm like, I got to push myself. I got to follow him. And then Big Paul's like, I'm sure John could have done more than what he did reps wise, but for the sake of the discussion and make it more interesting, he got me by a couple reps. Now I'm going to say that he died out like 2 reps ahead of me. He didn't have more in the tank. He died out, right? Again, that's the humor of it. He probably had 6 more, but I was like, damn it, I'm coming for you, John. And Paul's like, dude, he's a world record holding powerlifter, man. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Dude, we had just finished driving 7 hours.
That was brutal.
And so we hopped out of the car. This was like 9:30 at night. And we were like, all right, time to train. So dude, we were so spent. I'm surprised we even got that workout and we were so beat.
Yeah, it was good times. But
that's what training partners are for, Joe.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be out there. I got some videos. We had Seth Elbersworth on, Dr. Seth Elbersworth. Do you know him, John, from Elite FTS?
Yeah.
He's in Canada too. Great guy. And I was trying to like pick his brain for some tips on my deadlifts because I've been picking Joe's, and anyways, he said some videos. I do have some videos because like I'm still so uncomfortable like recording myself, right? Like I feel so cheesy, man. I'm just part of that era. So I hid the phone like in the camera, and I'm like, all right, I gotta get this movement down because I gotta see where my shoulders are with the bar and where my back's like breaking, you know. Anyways, so I got a couple pretty gnarly videos that I don't want to share with anybody.
Dude, next week when I come up, I'll see if I can look at your
Fix
deadlift.
me up.
I don't know how to do any strongman movements, so I'm not even gonna act like I'm intelligent in that. But I might be able to help you with your deadlift, Joe. So.
I know you can. That's the thing. I just figure there's so many just brilliant people we've been able to network with and talk with. I'm like, I'm gonna pick everyone's brain, just trying to get my strength back. So
It's gonna take a village to fix your back.
yeah. Yeah, man. Let's do it. So yeah, there are my 3 followers that like to watch my back come back to strength. But then, you know, when I pop a 700-pound deadlift, then we're good.
Well, so
in 5 years, it's gonna take me a while to get there. But no, I'm kidding.
I think we had mentioned this earlier, but once again, say when are your shows again, Joe, that your competitions you wanted to do, and what can we look out for them?
What's that?
Like, when can we look out for them to watch or see the updates and stuff?
The one I can guarantee I'm going to do is going to be Great Lakes Strongest Man on September 16th.
Okay, September 16th. Cool.
That'll be Traverse City, Michigan. And they actually do it inside of a baseball stadium on the infield. It's really cool. Really cool. So if you're not following Great Lakes Strongest Man on social media, definitely check it out. Because they do a really good show, super great production value. George Bullard, the guy that runs it, runs a really fast and well-run show. So, we've all, one problem in Strongman is sometimes we will get stuck at a 9-hour show on blacktop and a 90-degree day, stuff like that. So, it's just so dangerous, man. I've been in those situations where it's like, they don't run the show fast enough, and, it kind of puts the athletes at, and so that's why when I coming back, I really want to go to a good show with really good production value, stuff like that.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, and Joe's going to be, integrating a little bit with some of our content, or mine as well. We are kind of, vlogging some of the progress there, but so anyone wants to check it out, you can check out my Instagram or Joe's, and I'll point them in the right direction. Cause I'm most likely, I'm planning right now to go out there. I haven't connected with the people putting on the show, but we'll try to capture some content there. And I know, Justin, someone that's in his area owns a strongman gym. We're working on planning a seminar on the west side of the state of Michigan soon, probably late summer. And if we do, we're going to try to, obviously you, John, but then tag Joe in as well, just to kind of speak to that audience with us.
Hell yeah, man.
Help preach the gospel of strongman. So
yeah, it's a great sport, and I feel like not enough people are giving it a shot.
All right, well, let's wind down with shoot, move, and communicate. So we ready for that, Joe? I know you got your first sneak peek at this. So, all right, first question. What accomplishment in coaching has made you most proud?
Honestly, I've coached a lot of athletes. I've been coaching for over 20 years. I've had pros and stuff like that. But, the biggest thing for me was my nephew came to me when he was 15. And, as you're a strength coach, all you think about is training your family and stuff like that. But he wasn't interested until he was 15, so halfway through his sophomore year. And then just this past spring here, he competed so after 2 years of lifting, he made it to the state championships in powerlifted and deadlifted 500.
Nice.
That was yeah. So just to see my own nephew go from 0 to 500 in 2 years on his deadlift, and he started playing football and all that stuff. That's really the thing that's kind of really remotivated me and kind of pushed me out there, and just that and the Liver King stuff to get out there and just like, kids need help, man. It's just and they're not getting the information they need. So if I can be out there and if you just help one kid, it's totally worth it. Like, trust me, you'll be able to sleep at night.
That's awesome.
So yeah. If I could say anything, on this platform, that would kind of be my biggest.
Nice.
Helping young people over 25, not so much.
Come on, man. We need help.
don't imagine it's going to do all that much good.
All right, next one. What accomplishment outside of in your competitive life for your competitions has made you most proud?
I won Michigan's Strongest Man 3 times, and that's like I said, the Midwest is a hotbed for strongman. So if you're winning any contest in the Midwest, man, you're competing against some pretty serious competition, and that was the biggest thing that really kind of cemented me is okay, I've done something in the sport.
Yeah, good stuff. So up and coming strongman athlete, what would be your words of advice?
Well, the biggest thing in strongman, if you want to get it down to the base, is you got to learn the Olympic lifts, and then the strongman big 3 is that your deadlift, your squat, and your strict press. So standing strict press overhead. So if you can get those 3 numbers up, then that's going to be the core of your strongman performance. And it's funny, there's not a lot of squatting in strongman competitions, but one thing I learned early on from a study was that strongman events have a 75% correlation with your back squat. Okay, so even though you don't do a back squat very much in a contest situation, I've only done it 3 times in 10 years of competing, but that's one of the biggest things that's, for your core strength is that would be the biggest things I would recommend. Number 1, get your squat up, your deadlift, and your standing strict overhead press. Even if it's not a lot of weight, start somewhere and build up and try not to be embarrassed.
Nice.
I think that's a lot.
Words of wisdom. We'll definitely get some good reels out of that. All right, next up, one word to describe your ideal athlete to work with. What would that be? One word.
Dedicated, and that's, you see kids, and I don't care if you're a 13-year-old girl, I've had 14-year-old volleyball players that are more dedicated and train with more intensity than some of the pro football players I've worked with. Okay. So, it can come from anywhere. And that's the type of client I like. I just, I don't care if you want to be, whatever you want to be a pro at or whatever you want to get. I don't care if it's hockey or shark rodeo or whatever you're doing. And, if you're super dedicated and that's what you care about, then I want to be your coach.
Good deal. Good deal. All right. All right. If you had to miss one, what would it be? A meal, a night of sleep, or a training session?
I know what he's going to say.
Well, I'm like you, Joe. I don't sleep, so I'm used to never sleeping. I'm crabbiest if I miss a training session because
I knew it.
Yeah, I mean, you see me on Instagram, I like training with football players because we get loud, we yell at each other, we make fun of each other. I get called old and a short king about 50 times every training session by my partners. So Joe, you remember when we used to do our strongman crew, we'd all lift together, 5, 6, 10 of us, and then we'd have a barbecue and hang out and talk and, the social aspect of it, that's part of it that, I think has been lost with the social media is just, going to the gym with 4 of your buddies and working out and just having a good time, man.
Right.
That's kindness. After 23 years of doing that, that's still, the part of this I love the most.
Yeah. No, I will say, John, I don't know how you felt, but it was midnight when we got out of the shop gym, but we were still all pretty alert because it was just fun.
Yeah.
Everyone just hanging out, getting after it. Yeah. But
dude, that's funny. I noticed strength athletes will always say training session. They don't want to miss a training session. Bodybuilders will always say they don't want to miss a meal.
Yep.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. Yeah. I've been doing enough of these interviews now where I'm starting to see a pattern here. So I can do maybe I can do some kind of elaborate study on that. Right. All right. Last thing last here. First Detachment, talk about being all in. I think you've already said this a couple of times, but we'll give you another chance in case anyone didn't hear it. What is something you're currently all in on?
I'm all in and being 40 and not looking terrible and getting strong.
And fixing youth sports forever, right?
Yeah. That's all. So if I can get that done, I'd be pretty happy.
Good deal. Well, for everybody out there too, Joe Sheffield, Strongman, check him out. He'll be doing some collaboration work with me on joemiller1d.com. He'll be doing some work with firstdetachment.com. And then, he's got his ebook coming out. So if you're following any of our content, we're going to tie that in. And thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Rivas, Mr. Sheffield. Always a pleasure. And, guys, have a good night. See you.